Welcome, everyone. My name is Kathy. I wanted to take a few minutes here and share some projects I've been working on using this Celebrate Sunflower stamp set and the sunflower dies. They're currently on sale with a promotion that's going on in the month of March, and it's one of my favorite products. Before I start with the sunflowers, I wanted to share something else. I created this colored paper that I used as a background piece on several of the projects. This is the hammered metal embossing folder, and I wanted to create a colored patterned paper with this, basically. So I'm taking the Pacific Point ink pad, and I want to put ink on my embossing folder, but I want to put it on the raised part so that when I emboss it, the ink and the colored part will be in the indented parts, if that makes sense. I'll show you in a second. But you basically just want to rub your ink all over the embossing powder, or your embossing folder. Make sure you got it well inked, okay? Then what you're going to do is take that and you're going to put your paper on it. Okay, close your folder. You're going to run it through your embossing machine just like you normally would to emboss it. And what you'll get is a piece of paper that turns out looking like this. Isn't that cool? So you've got that Pacific Point coloring, and it almost looks like a mosaic tile. Then once you've done it one time, there'll still be some ink left in the embossing folder. So go ahead and run a second sheet of paper through it, and it'll come out a little bit lighter, but the same kind of thing. And we're going to use both of these in some projects that I've put together here. Let me set this aside. Now, what we're using, like I said, the Celebrate Sunflowers stamp set. And we're going to use this big sunflower image. I'm going to put it on my Stamparatus, I think, because that way I can stamp it multiple times if I need to. When you're using the Stamparatus, if you have one, this is a really cool tool. If you don't have it, you might want to get it to put in your arsenal of products. This is one of our stamp set cases, but it works really good as a leveling piece, if you will, for the Stamparatus tool, this stamping sheet here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my cardstock down. This is a piece of Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to take this. Now, when I stamp this, I want to try to keep it the same direction as this is, and I'll show you why in a minute. But I want to put this down so I know that my image is going to come out on top of my cardstock. Pull this down, rub a little bit, and it picks up your stamp for you. Now, I'm going to use soft suede. And this is my soft suede pad. I think it needs to be re-inked, but we'll give it a try and see what we come up with. Okay, and you want to press down, give it a nice overall rub, and lift it up. And yeah, it looks pretty light, I think. So let's go ahead and do it again. One of the beauties of using the Stamparatus is that you can stamp same image multiple times to make it a little bit darker each time. Okay, now let's give it a try. I'm going to put this down, stamp again, right over top of that first image. Okay, now let's see what it looks like. Yeah, that's much better. I like that. Okay, now I want to use the coordinating dies to go with this stamp set. There is a die here that will cut out this image. And it's kind of hard sometimes to line these images up, especially when it all looks jagged and you're like, which way does it go? So I kind of made a little bit, it's hard to see, but a mark here to kind of say, okay, and remember I told you to keep it stamped this way. So this is the top. And you kind of know that this is the bottom with these little swirly leaves here. It might not be exact, so it might take a little bit of finagling, but with the die, if you mark the top, quote unquote, of the die, let's take this off of here. It's going to want to stick to that. It'll help you to kind of line it up. This one's a little tricky. If you don't stamp it exactly right, it gets harder and harder to line it up. Let's see, where's my image? Should line up right in here somewhere. Did I mark it right? I don't know. Here we go. That's it right there. Okay. So you want to line that up. And sometimes you can put a little bit of washi tape on here or a little removable tape so that you know it's not going to move on you. To kind of hold that in place. Run it through your embossing machine, your cut and emboss machine. And you'll get this, basically, to be cut out. Now, I wanted to dress this up just a little bit, so I took a blender pen, and because I didn't use a waterproof ink, when you use a blender pen, you can kind of pull some of the color out and kind of color in an image, which is what I'm going to do here. I'm just going to kind of pull some of this brown, and I want the center to be a little bit darker. You see how it's pulling in the color? You don't want to color too much, because if you get it too wet with the blender pen, it'll start kind of fraying the cardstock a little bit, so just be careful what you do. Okay, so I'm going to go around this, and I want to do the same thing in the center, just kind of make it a little bit darker. Okay, there. Now, I also want to spruce this up with a little bit of Wink of Stella. This is a big flower, so I'm not going to color the whole thing in. But I'm going to just kind of give it some, you know, here and there, a little bit of sparkle. You can never have too much sparkle, but I don't want to use the whole thing. Okay, so you may not be able to see that, but it really adds a little bit of sparkle to it. I don't know if you can see that, but maybe not. Now, let us stamp. Let's put this away when you use that. I want to stamp the leaves. I think I have. You know, I'll stamp it. I'll go ahead and stamp them in. This is the same color. This is soft suede, by the way. I don't know if I told you that. And stamp that. I'm going to do 4 leaves for this card. Okay. And there's a die, of course, that will cut out the leaves. And you just want to put that on and run that through your die cutting machine. Okay. Now, I wanted to come back to that initial, this pretty hammered metal colored embossed piece. I'm just going to use the darker piece right now, but I'm going to cut this to be, let's see, 2.5-inch strip. I'm going to keep it, this is 5.5, so this is just an actual quarter sheet of white cardstock. I'm going to cut it a strip to be 2.5 inches wide. Okay, so I know I'm going to use that on the first card. And then I'm going to cut some 1/4-inch strips. Let's see. How many do I need? Let's do 3. Let's do 4. 1/4-inch strips that I'm going to use for another project. But since I've got the cutter out, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. little crooked. Let's spin that around. So there's 2. 3. And 1 more. Make sure I don't get the crooked side. Okay. Alright. Let's put those aside. We're going to use those in just a minute. Okay, now let me show you how I used this. I kind of put this first card together already, so I'm just going to show you what I've done. I stamped and embossed the greeting that says "Hope Changes Everything." That's coming from the Love of Leaves stamp set. Hope Changes Everything. And this is what the finished card looks like when you put it all together. Okay. Let's see, here we go. Hope Changes Everything. Isn't it pretty? So this is where I pulled in this piece here. 2.5 inch by 5 1/4, or by 5.5 rather. Now, these extra pieces here, I wanted to carry this, sort of this design onto the inside of the card while still giving you room to write. So what I did is I lined up the inside with a strip of white, and then I took this strip of white is 2 inches wide, and then I took these 1/4 inch strips and put those in place like that. Now you've got room to write your message, and it kind of gives the card cohesiveness when you open it. It's kind of got a similar vibe going. Okay, so that's the first card I wanted to share. Now the second card uses, rather than stamping the sunflowers, it's using the die cut images. And what I did with that one, misplaced it, but so when you die cut the leaves, there's a detailed die cut here, and there's this outlining one. Okay, so I cut some of these in, what color was this? Soft seafoam. Okay, so I cut, what did I cut? 4 of these in soft seafoam. All right, and then I wanted to layer on top of that this detailed leaf. Now, when you cut out this detailed leaf, it can be a little cumbersome when you're trying to glue them down. This is one that I already die cut. Okay, and then you punch out all those pieces, and then you don't have a lot left to put glue on, right? You can do it. You can take a little bit of a sponge. You could just use your liquid glue and just put tiny little dots on there, and then glue it down on top of here. You can also do what I did with some of these, and I took a piece of cardstock, and this is our adhesive sheets. They come, let's see, I had a pack handy somewhere a second ago. Yeah, here it is. Comes in a pack like this. There's 12 sheets, and it has little creases in it, you know, cut edges in here, which just makes it a little easier to peel it off. But you can cut it to fit the size of the cardstock that you're wanting to work with. Okay, so you basically just, you peel this off. You put it down on here. Okay. Just going to put that many on there right now. Then you'd put your detailed die cut on here. Okay, you'd run it through your die cutting machine. And you'll end up with, you know, imagine this was still in here. I kind of pulled it out, but so it die cuts it. You pop that off, and then you've got adhesive added to your leaf. Okay, so you can take this, you can pop out all those pieces, or you could probably just, you can get a hold of this with your fingernail, or you take your pick tool, just peel that off. Now you basically have a sticker that you can easily stick on to wherever you're wanting to stick it. In this case, I'm wanting to layer it on top of this other leaf. Kind of line that up. Doesn't have to be perfect, but there you go. Easy peasy. No messing around with glue or anything. Okay. So that's one little tip for getting those intricate die cuts. Getting some glue on them. Now, I take that, I die cut this one, the detailed one, out of soft suede. And again, I tried to mark the top so that it helps with lining them up. And then this is going to be the center point, so you'll die cut that. And then I misplaced that die I had a second ago. Where did it? There it is. Okay, so you're going to die cut this background piece out of a piece of Daffodil Delight. Okay. And then you'll end up with these pieces here. So this is the background piece, and this is the detailed piece. And then you're going to layer these out. Now this one I did not put the adhesive sheets on the back because I kind of liked the added dimension it gave, being a little more looser. And I didn't mark these, so I kind of got them mixed up as they were laying here. You can offset them and it looks nice, or you can try to line them up exactly the way they line up. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and glue these down. I just want to put some in the center. I'm kind of holding that in place with my fingers so I don't lose my spot, but you have a little bit of wiggle room when you use the liquid adhesive. Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and leave it like that. The centerpiece, which I have here, looks like that's got some little dots in it, but I'm going to, I think, put that down with dimensionals. Yeah, here we go. Let's not use those. So put a dimensional on the back of that to kind of pop that center up a little bit. Okay, there we go. Now, I mentioned earlier that you can run the die cut through and get the lighter color, if you remember. So we have the original dark color and then the lighter color. So this one I took a strip of the lighter color and I kind of want to put it down here like this, I think. Let's go ahead and put that down. Okay, I'm going to put it maybe about right here. Yeah, like that. Now this flower is going to go in here, and I have 3 other leaves that I have pre-done. I kind of noticed this is a little bit darker, it has some excess ink on there, so I'm going to try to cover that up a little bit with some leaves. And then we'll put a couple leaves in here. Yeah, that'll work. Okay, so let's go ahead and lift this up for a second. I'm just going to put a little adhesive in the center of this. Put him back down, and then I can tuck the leaves in around him. A little adhesive on this. I really love the way this sunflower. So far, okay, I've showed you how to stamp it, just directly on cardstock. So you get the sunflower gets its color from the cardstock. Okay, that's good. And then this one, there's no stamping of the sunflower at all. It is all put together with the dies. Okay. Gonna stick these in here. Now I want to put a greeting on here. So we're going to use, let's see. I used this one. This is the Thinking of You with All My Heart stamp from the Peaceful Moments stamp set. And I'm going to stamp that in Pacific Point. On this, I believe this is a 1-inch strip. Okay. There's that. Now I wanted to give it a little bit of a flag, so I'm going to use the Banners Pick-a-Punch to just punch the one end of it. I'm going to use this side here, I think. Yeah, I'll go this way. So I'll slip that in so I can see, make sure I'm not punching my stamped image. Alright, now we'll pull that in. And it can go right here. Yeah, it's cute. Alright. Do I want to put this up on dimensionals? Yeah, I think I will. I'll give it a little height there. Okay. Okay, so put this right up against this edge. And there you have it. Okay, so there's card number 2. I really like that a lot too. Now, the third card I wanted to share with you is one that involves coloring with our Stampin' Blends. So I'm going to use the smaller image. Let's see, where is it? Oopsie. Put this back before I lose it again. This sunflower here I'm going to use. So, let's put this on a block. Let's see. I don't want to use that one. Put that on here. Yeah, let's pull this one off. Okay. And I'm going to stamp this. Because I'm using the blends, I want to use an ink that's not going to bleed. So I'm using the Memento ink. You can also use the black StazOn. Works nicely. I haven't had a problem doing the blends with the Memento, so I'm going to go ahead and stick with that. Okay. So there's 1, 2. Okay, I'm just going to show you how to color this one. Now I'm using, let's see, put this aside. Hey, I got a mess here. You'd be laughing if you saw the mess around me. Excuse me. I'm going to start with, let's start with the flower. I'm going to do that with the Daffodil Delight. Is that right? Yes, Daffodil Delight. So I'm going to start with the dark. This is the dark color. And I know that I want to have it kind of have a darker shadow around here. So I'm just going to kind of go around it. It's going to look a little weird at first, but don't worry. Can put some little lines. Stampin' Up! Does a really good job of telling you where to shade by their artists adding these little lines in here. Kind of takes the guesswork out in some respects. Okay, so I'm just going to color one because I have some pre-done, but now I'm going to take the lighter. Now I want it to be lighter on the tips, So rather than go this way and pull the color out, I'm going to go the opposite way. I'm going to pull the lighter color and go in. Okay. Start at the tip and go in. Start at the tip and go in. I'm going to go all the way around it that way. You'll find that as the blends sit a little bit as they dry, once you've colored something, as it starts to dry, it really kind of changes a little bit as it kind of dries. The colors will blend nicely together. And then when you can go back and do whatever touch up you want. So again, start at the tip and go in. One other thing I'll tell you about the blends is try not to use it like a crayon, like, because you'll just run your tip. It's a brush tip, so use it like a brush tip, like a paintbrush. Now, mind you, there are times when I might do exactly what I just told you not to do, but for the most part, try not to do that. Okay, so there's the first go around, and I'll show you. I'm going to go back over it in a minute, but let's do the center. This is soft suede. And I'm going to do a similar thing. Like I'm going to go around the outside edge. And the circle here. Okay, and then I'm going to go take the lighter soft suede. And I'm going to I just kind of want to paint this together and kind of let it do its thing. And on this one, I'm doing just the opposite. So I'm going to the dark and pulling the darker color out a little bit. You see? Do you see the difference? Okay. Now I'm going to do the leaf. Again, we'll start with the dark green. And I know that there's going to be like a natural shadow up by the flower itself, so I'm going to do that. Kind of stick with their lines. They're just lines that they've put in the stamp. Okay. And this is Granny Apple Green, by the way, and this is the light version. This one, I'm going to go ahead and pull the dark out. Okay. Let me see. Now, I want to go back to the flower for a minute. Then I'm going to pull in the dark Daffodil Delight. And I'm going to add just a little bit more. I'm going to go over these lines a little bit. Add a little bit more dimension and interest to the image. Can you see the difference between this side and this here? Just by coming back in and giving it a little bit extra oomph. Kind of adds a little more dimension to the look. Okay. That's good. That'll dry nicely. Now, there's a dye that goes with this. This comes from the Sunflower Dyes. So you put that on there. And you'll cut that out. And of course, through the magic of video, I already have done that. Now this is the gatefold card. It's the same size. It's 8.5 by 5.5. Normally, you would score it down the middle here at 4 1/4 and fold it in half, right? So that's how you get your traditional card. The gatefold, you're going to go halfway. So like you're going to score it 2 1/8, 2 1/8, and fold it to the center. Okay. Now here's where I brought in those quarter inch strips that I cut, 2 more of the 1/4 inch strips that I had cut. And I actually snipped these just a little shorter because I wanted it to just kind of pop off the page a little more. Now, for the inside of this, I have this die cut piece, and this comes from, oh, I forgot the name of it. Where is it? I think I have it here somewhere. Here it is. Nature's Thoughts Dies. I'm having an avalanche going on. Nature's Thoughts Dies. It's this frame, rectangle frame here. It's a really fun frame to use on all sorts of projects. So I'm going to put this down in the center. And you know what? I'm going to do that first before I decorate the front. And I'll show you why in a second. So let's just go ahead and put some adhesive on this. And center it as best you can. Doesn't have to be perfect, but you do want to try to get it straight. Okay, now here's why I said I wanted to do that first. You see how that shows through? It's because I didn't do a real good job of measuring and folding, but that's okay. I'm going to fix that. So for the front, we are also going to have the same piece. And I took this stamp that says Hugs, Prayers, Love. And I have to close this pad before I make a disaster of my arm. Hugs, Prayers, Love. And this comes from the Positive Thoughts stamp set. Which, by the way, coordinates with that die set that I just had a second ago. It's the Nature's Thoughts dies. Coordinates with the Positive Thoughts stamp set. Because it cuts out the butterfly and flower. And this fern. And that they think is just an extra filigree. This cuts out the feather. Anyway, that's a fun combo. So anyway, let's stamp our greeting. Goes up here. Hugs, Prayers, Love. Okay. Now I'm going to put that on the front of my card. Let's put the adhesive on it. Now, you only want to put adhesive on one side of it. Because I just put it on the wrong side. Going to be a reverse gatefold. Let's not do that. Let's use this one. I want the adhesive to be on this side. Okay. Here we go. You want to make sure that you're lining up and covering up the inside where you put your greeting. It won't show. Okay, now you can't even tell it was there. This keeps wanting to pop up, so I'm going to put that on there. And now I bring in the die cut sunflowers. So we're going to put one down here. Maybe put a couple up on dimensionals if I can find them. I don't know what I did with them. I could lose just about anything, I'm telling you. I'm struggling today. So let's put a dimensional on there. And a not on there, no. On there. Dimensional. On this one. And it can kind of come up this way. And a dimensional on this one. And it can kind of go off to the side that way. There's a gatefold card. You can write your greeting inside. That's it. I hope you enjoyed that. And thanks for watching. Thanks. Bye-bye.